Today on First Cup, we're going to talk about yesterday's episode of Martial Arts Radio, maybe a little bit. We're going to talk about my day. We're going to talk about the thing I did yesterday that I've never done before, and talk about answer your questions and comments. Stick around. We roll in 15 seconds. Oh. Okay, I guess I can do this. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today is Tuesday. It's October 19th, 2021. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. My camera says someone's in my driveway. Who's in my driveway? That's not right. I was just catching weird reflections off people driving by. Yes, I have cameras. I live in the woods. Good morning, Tommy. Good morning, Jenny. And, yeah, need cameras. Gotta have cameras. If you live out in the woods and you don't have security cameras, I don't know what you're doing. It's nice to know what's going on. Like this past weekend when I was at that conference in Burlington, there was crazy rain and really insane wind, and so I checked my cameras to see, did a tree fall on my house? Give me peace of mind. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Stacy. Look at all these people rolling in. Tommy says, I have a 100-pound hound dog for a camera. Well, that may provide security, but it doesn't provide information when you're away. I'm not saying a dog is a bad choice. I'm saying that why not have both? They're cheap. You can get cameras from Wise for, I think the low-end one is like $22. If you want the monitoring with recording, it's $1.99 a month. Pretty cheap. I have several of them from different brands because there's some nerdy elements that were satisfying there. I like I like testing electronics. Let's just put it that way. Hope you had a good Monday. I did. When did I finish up with my work? Probably about 3:30. It was a decent day. Got through a lot of stuff. I was packing boxes for shipping out product, and I'm in the middle of it. Somebody ordered something else. Somebody ordered another helmet, so I packed another helmet. Walked into the post office, like trying to balance all these boxes. Didn't make it. Dropped one on the floor. Oh well. And Tommy, the dog setting the camera off, most of these have, you can draw areas of motion that won't notify you. So you could say, anything below this level, don't bug me. Or put them outside. Or. Lots of ors there. Well, I want to say that last night, man, I hope I'll wake up. I've got 4 interviews today. Last night we had a new whistlekick division headed up by Stacy, and we had our first meeting, and it went really well, and I was super pumped about that. And I went to bed with a smile on my face because of that, because, hey, we're doing good stuff, and that makes me really happy. You know what else I did yesterday? I had a handgun lesson. Something I've been wanting to do. I think I've mentioned this on the show that we had a new indoor range open up. And I walked in a couple weeks ago and said, hey, I want to not feel like a moron when I go into the range. And they said, we can help you with it. And the guy who runs the classes, it was one-on-one. It was quite reasonable. It was $80 an hour. And I had to buy my own ammo. But we spent the first 45 minutes in the classroom using, just running through really basic stuff. And I was like, man, this is the best. And it was funny, he was nervous because I guess most people don't want to go through those fundamentals. And so I gave him a little bit about my background and how much I love learning the basics because I recognize their importance. Daniel says, we've had a weird case in the news here recently talking about cameras. Someone suing their neighbor for invasion of privacy because of their Ring doorbell. Crazy. Well, See, in the States, that would be, I mean, the case would likely get dismissed unless the judge wanted to really set some precedent. Because here, the camera's outside, the person speaking would be audible outside, and it's not set up to record them specifically. So pretty cut and dry by my understanding of American law. Good morning, Nathan. Yeah, there have been a couple times. So on Friday, somebody came and knocked at my front door. I knew about it a little bit after. I got something's not quite going right with the notifications on that camera. But they were in a vest, and I couldn't quite tell what they were doing. And that person came back yesterday, and they were from an internet company, and they just wanted my approval to check something on a pole. And I said, yeah, because they had to walk onto my property to do it. And I said, that's fine. But I made sure I let him know. I was like, I saw you come through on Friday. And he was a little taken aback. I was like, yeah, I know. I know who's on my property. So Daniel says that's how it should be. But apparently the camera very slightly covered some of the neighbor's property. Let me guess, this is in a suburban area or something where, people are pretty much living right next to each other. Man, I don't know how you guys do that. Whether you're in the UK or in the US, I don't understand how people live right next to other people. It drives me nuts. It would drive me nuts. I lived in Worcester, second biggest city in New England, when I was in college. That was a little bit too much even. Even in college, it was too much. Oh, that coffee came out good. What else did I do yesterday? Tons of email, tons of just general stuff. I did bring in some of the plants. I brought in palm tree and the rubber tree and the avocados. Because while we weren't going to hit a frost, it's really past the point where those plants are going to be doing well outside. I woke up, when I went to bed it was 42, woke up it was 40. We've got a potential for a frost coming the next couple days, so I gotta watch that temperature. I don't want to bring all those plants back in. They're sad. They're sad when they're inside. Plants should be outside, right? But winter and snow, what are you gonna do? Like I said, 4 interviews today, 4 different martial arts radio interviews, and that's going to rebuild our buffer. According to Andrew, we have enough scheduled to get through the end of the year. Not today, but just that are currently scheduled, which is great. I'm excited for that. We record every 2 weeks. Going to try to push that if we can. We're going to just try to start pushing that out to every 3 weeks. If we could have 4 people every 3 weeks, because what you may or may not know, on an interview day, on a recording day, it's really hard for me to switch gears and do other work. So the fewer days that we're recording interviews, the better. So if we can get to 4 interviews every 3 weeks, that would be great. We would be solid there. And then from there, who knows? What happens? Do we find a way to do 5? And do 5 every 4 weeks? I don't know. We will figure it out. Now, yesterday's episode, the video went up a little bit late. Julia was having internet problems, and finally got that up. It's a great episode with Angel and Sam Diaz. And if you haven't checked it out, please check it out. And again, I would encourage you to check out the video. One other thing happened yesterday that I want to mention. We sadly have had our 4th past guest pass away. Sensei Chuck Merriman, episode 256, if I'm remembering correctly. Now, if you don't know that name, I'm going to really urge you to go back and listen to that episode. Because I would venture that we might be able to name 10 people in the history of American martial arts who had an influence on just about everybody training today. He's one of them. I don't care what style you do. He has had influence on what you've done. Jun Rhee would be another one who's also passed away, past guest of the show. Matosi might also be on that list, right? Like we could, if we talked about it a bunch, we could probably come up with 10. But right off the top of my head, he's at least he's in the 5. There's 5 right there. Well, 3, but it's a pretty solid episode, and I think you should check it out because he's gone. Now, quite often when you get someone like this, most of what you have from them, they wrote books, if they did interviews, magazine, articles, etc. It's from when they were in their prime, and I use air quotes for that, because usually the prime that people would be referencing would be their competitive time. And he was a competitor, coached a team. We talk about that in the episode. But the interesting thing about martial arts and martial artists is their knowledge and their impact doesn't necessarily diminish after that. And in his case, it grew because he kept doing great stuff and teaching people and helping others walk their own martial arts path. Now, I don't know if there were other interviews with him after we recorded ours, but I can't imagine there were too many that went an hour long. And this is why we do what we do. Tommy asks, why is it hard to switch gears? We've got 2 halves of our brain, right? Left and right brain. I think it's almost like I have more sections of my brain. That when I move from doing one thing, let's say I'm writing for a client, or I'm just writing in general. If I'm putting together some written content, for me to stop doing that and go interview someone, it takes me a little bit of time to figuratively set down that writing. You know, if I get into a good groove, that my brain doesn't operate the same way when I'm interviewing someone. Now, people ask me frequently, how do you do all of these different things? I can shift around. I can do a bunch of different things. I'm fortunate, I have a lot of different skills. But I think the downside is that for me to transition from one thing to another, there's a tremendous, in my own mind, I refer to it as efficiency loss. So I try to group things together as best I can. That's why we have moved to doing interviews all day. Now, it's also exhausting to do these interviews, to remain present, to listen, to not only hear what they're saying, but constantly in the back of my mind thinking of, okay, if they stop now, I'll ask this question. If they stop now, I'll ask this question. If they stop now, I'll ask this question. I get feedback from people periodically saying I'm a pretty good interviewer. It's because I put a tremendous amount of energy in. And to take, let's say, you know, my first interview is at 9. Second one's at 11. So this first interview could go with prep time and everything, pre-show, could end 10:30, even 10:45. What am I going to do in that 15 or 30 minutes? Even if there's something I can do, I'm tired. I need to sit down and rest. And by the time that fourth one rolls around, I'm smoked. And I'm pretty much going to just stagger out like a zombie at about 4:15 and just go, and I'm going to go to the gym. That's my plan the rest of the day, go to the gym. Now, I wanted to make sure we got to this quote that Stacy posted yesterday, because I think it's pretty great quote, and it's one that I've spent some time thinking about in the last 24 hours. Those who understand themselves, those who understand see themselves in all, and all in themselves. The Bhagavad Gita, which that's a book, right? It's not a person. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. And so I've spent some time, some energy thinking about what this means to me. Those who understand, however you want to define understanding, see themselves in all and all in themselves. To me, it's about recognizing that we're not separate. We're all connected. We're connected to everything. We are, whether you want to think of it metaphysically, whether you want to think of it philosophically, we're connected. We're connected to other people. We're connected to animals. We're connected to the earth. And I think we do ourselves and everyone else and everything else around us a great disservice when we try to compartmentalize. One of my fundamental beliefs or sayings, you can't outscience nature. Now, please don't try to apply that to anything political or anything right now. It's not why I say it or even how I mean it. What is science? Science is a process that we as human beings use to understand what's going on around us. And science tends to want to reduce things down because it's a lot easier to understand things. But nature is about as complex as you get. If you were to create an algorithm that led to the world, I don't even think we could conceive of how long of an equation that would be. So the idea that we take the world and reduce it down, one, we have to do it, but two, I think we need to recognize that that piece is never going to be as robust, as full as the whole. But it doesn't mean we can't admit that it's happening. Stacy is agreeing with me. It is a book. Eric says, nicely put. Thank you. Try and see. I tackled that much better this morning than I would have yesterday. I had some time to chew on it. You know, we could extend that to martial arts too, couldn't we? When you recognize that martial arts is about movement and growth, and you see all the things that are in it, and you see your relationship to it and how you are not only participating but putting some energy into martial arts. Anybody out there an instructor that had no students ever show up? I had it once. It kind of sucked. I was like, oh, nobody's here for my class today. I'm sad. That relationship is kind of necessary. So when you think, oh, I'm just a white belt, no, you're doing your job. You're filling your role. You are part of the nature of martial arts. You've shown up, you've contributed, you've given your teacher a reason to be there. It's important. Now, Frank also gave us some stuff. Where is it? That was yesterday. Here's today. Thank you to Frank. Oh, today is Evander Holyfield's birthday. There we go. And we got 3 quotes here. I like these. A setback only paves the way for a comeback. Dennis says he's had no students show up a few times in his teaching career. Daniel says, I was the only student who showed up once. It was the best class ever. I have a few of those from my childhood. And yeah, one-on-one. You learn it. You learn so much. That's part of why I'm taking these firearms. I don't know if I want to call them classes, but And Dennis agrees. Daniel, yes, I've been on that end too. Best class ever. There's a upside and a downside to a group setting. There's a lot of energy. There are drills, especially martial arts drills, that you can't do solo. But one-on-one, you can get into some detail that you might not have, well, that you wouldn't have otherwise. Setback leading to a comeback. We like comeback stories, don't we? And I think it's because we all can relate to those setbacks. You look at pretty much any boxing movie, there's a setback in there. Most sports movies, that's really the premise is, here's some major setback. Even martial arts movies, there's been some setback. Nothing ever goes wonderfully constantly. There's always some kind of dip, some kind of setback. And the funny thing is, if you were to find a way to take a step back out of your life and score, like what's going on in your life, on a scale of 1 to 10, all these things, you would find that the majority of things are still going the same, well. And I think the more that we can dwell on that, feel happy about it, the better off we are. Tommy had a couple classes where only one student showed up, and they loved it. I like teaching one-on-one. If the person that I'm working with has the energy, I love it. Because you can really go deep in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. That's our next Holyfield quote. It is not the size of a man, but the size of his heart that matters. Oh, let's turn this banner off. I would agree for the most part. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes it matters. I'm not going to enter a world's strongest man competition. I would not do well. The size matters in that case. But overall, I think the quote's pretty solid. Heart. How much are you going to put in? How do you show up? What's important to you? I talk to people, and they find out I had a call with somebody I went to high school with, who was starting a podcast. And he had initially reached out and was like, "Oh, you're doing a podcast. Let's collaborate." Not like in a martial arts way, but more like accountability and mutual support. And he wrote back like a day later. He's like, "I just saw how many episodes you've done. Never mind. You're in a very different place." And so he was looking for some help on a couple things. And so we chatted for about an hour yesterday. And most of what I was giving him was just support and just helping him move forward. Because that's really all anything is. It's having the heart to show up and to keep going and to persist through when it sucks. You do enough things, like I do, or like whistlekick does, and there's always going to be one of them that's not going well. Do you dwell on that, or do you dwell on the ones that are going well? I'm trying to get better about dwelling on the good stuff. Tommy agrees that him in a strong man contest would be an epic fail. All right, one more. One more Holyfield quote, then I send you on your way to have hopefully a great day. Odds are just the people's opinion. Respect your own opinion. Just because people around you tell you you're wrong or you can't do it. I went out to dinner with someone on Saturday after this conference, and they wanted to know more about whistlekick. This person doesn't train, has never trained, but is pretty successful in business. Smart person. Articulate. I liked him. But didn't get it. did not understand what we were doing at all. And what I found interesting was it seemed like there was a lack of willingness to admit that by not understanding martial arts from the inside, that was relevant. If you don't train, if you haven't been in the martial arts, probably for a few years, what we do may not make sense. It may seem like we make and sell some products and then we waste a whole bunch of money and time on other stuff. That's one way to look at it. It's not how I see it. We're doing some pretty important work. And if you're watching, if you participate, if you support, if you purchase, if you tell people, right? Like all those things that I always say on the show. You're part of it. You are contributing your energy to the martial arts, which makes the world better. There aren't a whole lot of things in this world that make people better. Education generally makes people better. Improving your health generally makes people better. But remember, martial arts, the cliche, the way everyone understands it, is that it is so positive that most parents want their children to participate at some point. There's nothing else like that. We do good things. We're going to keep doing good things as an industry. I'm going to keep doing things as a person, whistlekick, so long as I have influence over it. We'll continue to do good things. And I know all of you are doing good things. I don't believe there is any easier way to make a positive impact on the world than training and teaching martial arts. And we'll end with this humor because that's a little heavy. Daniel says, you know the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, maybe skydiving isn't for you. And Tommy answers, I literally spit my coffee out a bit. Oh, you guys are great. Thanks for coming. I hope you have a good day. I hope to see you tomorrow for another episode. Those of you who ordered sweatpants, that is on track. And if you want to support what we do, we've got a Patreon. I reposted the Chuck Merriman episode in Patreon yesterday and attempted to post the raw audio, but apparently the raw audio was only my side of the conversation. I'm not sure what happened to the other half. But I still gave you my thoughts. We try to add value to all of your lives. And those of you who are willing to throw a few bucks our way, we try to throw even more value your way. So hopefully you appreciate it. But if you don't want to do that, you've got a code FIRSTCUP15 at whistlekick.com. Grab a shirt, grab a whatever. Grab some gear. Grab a book. Grab a training program. You know, whatever you want to do. Okay. I will see you back here tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going to go post a post on the Facebook group so you can leave me some things to talk about. And I'll see you bright and early. Take care, everybody. Peace.